Not
Okay.
watch the traffic down on the
Yeah.
walking, you know. Well, I
Interesting.
was saying that it would be a miracle if you can find any of Tessa's photography in Paris. And also, she would not have been a serious photographer there at the time. She was, working for UNICEF or for United Nations at first. And I'm not too sure what her role was there, but, it was international. Crin was working for Magnum
Right.
still at the time before he had the falling out with Cartier-Bresson, who didn't want to publish his Algerian photographs. But
That's a whole big story.
that's a whole big
Oh, my
story in
goodness.
itself, and I actually did write an essay on it for Martha Langford, but the project that she was working on has come to stop, for all kinds of reasons, maybe economics and philosophical differences and all of that, not with me, but, with possible the publishers. But in any event, I don't think Tess was a very serious photographer there. She was interested, and she told me that she then went to work for Magnum. And I asked her what she did, and she said, well, she did retouching of pictures, which she, was good at because, photographing under all these different circumstances when the photographers come back, although Magnum believes in the purity of the image being, but if you want to publish it in an illustration on a journal, of course the journals want, in those days, very sharp, clear pictures, that they didn't want pictures to look like they were out of focus or anything like that, the way, um, you know, Robert Frank kind of put on the map, on how you could take pictures and still be meaningful. So she did work on that, and then she said that she wrote some of the captions
Right.
for some of the photographers, just
Cartier
as they were
Bresson.
going out, for Cartier-Bresson and others, So she did not tell me, and she did talk about Mavis a lot, as being friends and admired her literature.
Did they meet there?
I don't know. I really don't know. I would presume that they did because
Yeah.
Mavis was already there, and being Canadians, tried to make connections with others. She being a Canadian. Crin, of course, was Dutch. Her husband was Dutch. So that's my understanding. And Mavis, now, Tess is also, lived in Montreal for a while, and so Mavis was there, so there might have been some earlier connection, but I really don't know. I mean, and she was never one to talk too much personally about someone. She was more talked about the work that the aspects of the creativity of their work. What if she was a writer? What did she write about? What did she have to say? What could you get out of this material? And that to me was more what Tess was interested in most of the dialogue. And it's the same thing with when we're talking about photography. She dismissed often the character of the individual itself and didn't bring it much into it, except when it came to Cartier-Bresson. Because when I was at her house one day, she had a photograph. There was two photographs by Cartier-Bresson, and one was of a little boy carrying the wine bottles, which is quite a popular picture, and in it written in Cartier or in Cartier-Bresson's handwriting, it says, "With thousand thanks, Tess." And the other one is dedicated to Crin. And I looked at them and I said, "Oh, wonderful." She said, "Yeah." She said he gave those as a peace offering after, the arguments that they had with Crin. And she said, and it was years later, that he was still a bit of a, I'm not going to say it, but it starts with an A, and ends with an S, Yes,
That's
so,
a very common thing in the art world.
well, so that's the only one time I really, well, she would sometimes say maybe a critical remark about photography. Well, they don't photograph people, so they don't interest me. She said, she was more interested in photography. And then when they came to Toronto here after the upheaval, my understanding from Tess was that Crin still, although he was angry, this is in 1969, 70, he was still angry, he still maintained a contact with Magnum, but kind of withdraw as being an official member because he felt that they owed him a lot of money, travels, he wasn't getting anything in, and with Tess being a Canadian, he didn't have, at that time, any difficulty coming to Canada. And he thought there was a lot of photography he could do here. And so he did some very wonderful work of the Hooderites. I don't know if you've seen that series. It was, he worked on it for years. He worked for a prolonged period to tell the story. He worked about a blind boy in Buffalo. And so there was a number of stories that he generated here. But